بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم حميم عين سين قاف كذلك يوحي إليك وإلى الذين من قبلك الله العزيز الحكيم.
الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We continue with Surah Ash-Shura and ayah number 41. Ayah number 41 from Surah Ash-Shura. Yesterday we only talked about ayah number 40 and the maratib, the levels of al-uqubat, the levels of retribution. We recited the ayat yesterday, so ayah number 41, وَلَمَنِ انتصر بعد ظلمه فَأُولَئِكَ مَا عَلَيْهِمْ مِنْ سَبِيلٍ. And whoever avenges himself after having been wronged, those who have not upon them any cause for blame. So this is after فَمَنْ عَفَى وَأَصْلَحَ. So since the levels of avenging or having justice or a higher level than that, as previously mentioned, a sayyi'ah is to be opposed with the same equal action as far as the level of justice. And whoever pardons and forgives, and as a result of that it brings goodness, فَأَجْرُهُ عَلَى اللَّهِ, his rewards is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a higher level. إِنَّهُ لَا يُحِبُّ الظَّالِمِينَ, this is the level of dhulm or injustice. As mentioned before, that a dhulm is for the one that does it ibtida'an, initiates the dhulm. He's the one that the first one to do the act of aggression or injustice, and also for those who retaliate with more than what they deserve. So both are doing acts of dhulm and wrongdoing. So after showing these levels, and for those who pardon, they might think that this is a must on them or this is an obligation. No, this is a call for them to elevate themselves. And that's why this ayah, وَلَمَنِ انتصر بعد ظلمه فَأُولَئِكَ مَا عَلَيْهِمْ مِنْ سَبِيلٍ. Whoever choose to get his right and to avenge himself after he has been wronged, but with the condition that he does not do injustice, there's no blame on them. They're not to be blamed. People should not tell them why you're doing this. This is their rights. And when it comes to the rights, you don't blame the person if they want to have their rights, as long as they know how to do it, or it's going to be given to them, again, without any increase of it whatsoever. But you can encourage them. When you encourage someone to do something, even though it's not mandatory for them, you don't make them in state of blame. So this is basically what the ayah is saying. And Imam Sa'di rahimahullah, he says, وَلَمَنِ انتصر, he says, مِن بَعْدِ ظُلْمِهِ, after he has been wronged against, مِن بَعْدِ ظُلْمِهِ, أي انتصر ممن ظلمه بعد وقوع الظلم عليهم. That means he sought revenge or to be victorious or to be helped against those who commit injustice against them. بعد وقوع الظلم عليه, after the dhulm had been upon him. فأولئك ما عليهم من سبيل, these people there's no sabil, there's no way, that means there's no blame for them. أي لا حرج عليهم في ذلك, there's no haraj, there's no sin for them if they do that. There's no tightness for them if they do this. ودل قوله والذين إذا أصابهم البغي, the ayah previously, those who the baghi, if aggression afflicted them, هم ينتصرون, they seek victory and they seek to push it away. And this ayah وَلَمَنِ انتصر بعد ظلمه, and this ayah, whoever seek to avenge and to be victorious over those who wronged them with justice. When you have these two verses together, he says أنه لابد من إصابة البغي والظلم ووقوعه. It shows that there has to be baghi. This is how life is. Life is like this. There has to be always acts of aggression, injustice, not to approve the aggression and the injustice. This is the reality of this life. When someone thinks that they can live in a suggested way of life that does not exist, you ruin yourself like this. But face the reality of this life. Because some people, they They say things or they dream of a life that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not create it in this earth. They dream of Jannah as if it's going to be in this life physically. No, this life is like this. From the very moment that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam alayhi salam, when the angels, they said, أَتَجْعَلُ فِيهَا مَن يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا وَيَسْفِكُ الدِّمَاءَ وَنَحْنُ نُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِكَ وَنُقَدِّسُ لَكَ. They asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, would you make in it, meaning on the face of earth, those who corrupts on the face of earth and shed blood? So they knew, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informed them that this is the way that it's going to be. Because once you have a choice, this is how things are. When the human beings, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them a choice, whether to be good or evil, that means it has to be evil. And this is the entire concept of this life. So for the believers, they see that, they understand that, so that they know how to deal with things in the right way before it happens. He says, أنه لابد من إصابة البغي والظلم ووقوعه. It has to happen. وأما إرادة البغي على الغير وإرادة ظلمه من غير أن يقع منه شيء فهذا لا يجازى بمثله. As for the one that إرادة البغي, to wish or to will to have any aggression or to do ظلم over someone else, وإرادة ظلمه, and to will for injustice, just the إرادة, just the will that he wants to do it, من غير أن يقع منه شيء, without doing anything physically. Someone just, he's going through a struggle within his own self. He wants to revenge. He wants to, do this and do that as acts of evil, but nothing happens. He kept it to his own self. He says, فَهَذَا لَا يُجَازَ بِمِثْلِ. Such a person is not to be recompensed or punished by the like of it. وإنما يؤدب تأديبا. If it showed, of course, if he keeps it to himself, no one will know anything except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he should purify himself so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees in his heart goodness and nasiha and things like this. And with the matters of belief, purifies this. But if it shows, even though he didn't do anything, it shows that he wants to do something, but he didn't do it. He says, إنما يؤدب تأديبا يرضعه عن قول أو فعل صدر منه. Rather, يؤدب, to be reprimanded, this, whether it's into the level of authority, they would have a different punishment or a lighter punishment if they see that fits, or someone might give him harsh words to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So any level of ta'deeb, ta'zir, some light punishment, but not the laws of equality of punishment, because he didn't do anything. He was just saying things or acted in a wrong way, of course. يرضاه عن قول أو فعل صدر منه, because of a speech or action that he did. And that's why speech, also a person is held accountable for their speech. And it's a person has to watch what he says. And he can harm people by slandering, backbiting, lying about people and things like this, which hurts them sometimes more than what it hurts physically. So وَلَمَنْ انتصر بعد ظلمه فأولئك ما عليهم من سبيل. So there's no blame on them if they ask for revenge or for the justice if they have been wronged against. And this is what Ibn Kathir rahimahullah, he mentioned that many, of course, narrations in this subject, one of which is the dua against the one that wronged you, that did injustice for you. This is something that people find ease when they do this. They want to make dua against the ones that they did wrong to them. We have to be extremely careful, even though the person has the right to do that. And that's why it's a severe warning for doing injustice to people. As mentioned yesterday, if it's a choice, either or, it's better to be mazloom, to be wronged against, to be an oppressed person, but not to be oppressor. If it's either or. That's why if a person is not able to get his rights, and the only way that he gets his rights, that he will become zalim himself, an oppressor himself, no, stay oppressed. And never to be oppressor yourself. Of course, this is not a call to be oppressed, but it's a forbidding of being an oppressor or doing something of injustice. So, and that's why is that one of the severe punishment of dhulm is that the dua of the mazloom mustajab. As the hadith of the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, ليس بين دعوة المظلوم ليس بين الله ودعوة المظلوم دعوة المظلوم دعوة مستجابة. Hijab. There's no hijab between the dua of the madloom and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The madloom here, any madloom, even if the madloom is a disbeliever. If the oppressed one is a disbeliever and he asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his dua is accepted. As the Prophet ﷺ said, even though the kafir dua is not accepted from the kafir, except in these matters, to show how severe the dhulm is. That even if the zalim and an act of dhulm, act of oppression, came from someone that is righteous and some believer and so on, and the da'wah of the kafir against him is mustajab. To that extent, the dhulm is forbidden, and therefore a person has to be extremely careful with this. And part of al-intisar for an oppressed person is the dua. And the dua is a serious matter. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept the dua of the mazloom. How it's accepted, this is by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the most high subhanahu wa ta'ala. And people in the day of judgment, when they see the acceptance of the dua, they would never, even in this dunya, if they see the unseen, they would never wish for themselves anything better or more than what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did for the acceptance of their dua. So whether it's delayed, whether it's to be kept in the hereafter, punishments is not what you suggest as a human being. It's not for a lightning to come from the skies. It can be the punishment of the oppressor is to stay in the state of disbelief till he meets Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That means he's going to be in hellfire forever. And other things, that is the secrets of Allah. So anyway, but here the ayah, وَلَمَنْ انتصر بعد ظلمه فَأُولَٰئِكَ مَا عَلَيْهِمْ مِنْ سَبِيلٍ. There's no blame on them with the condition that they don't become from the zalimeen, from the wrongdoers themselves. So what is the sabil then? What is the haraj? What is the blame? إنما السبيل على الذين يظلمون الناس ويبغون في الأرض بغير الحق أولئك لهم عذاب أليم. Which means the cause is only against the ones who wrong the people and tyrannize upon the earth without right. Those will have a painful punishment. So, إنما السبيل. So, السبيل here is the blame, is the way, is the cause to be blamed. The real blame is for who? Not for the one that asks for his rights after he's been oppressed, but the blame is for those who إنما السبيل أي إنما تتوجه الحجة بالعقوبة الشرعية. The punishment becomes directed towards, and the evidence is established upon على الذين يظلمون الناس, for those who do injustice to people. وَيَبْغُونَ فِي الْأَرْضِ بِغَيْرِ الْحَقِّ. Al-baghi is transgression. Those who spread aggression on the face of earth without the right to do so. He says, وَهَذَا شَامِلٌ لِلظُّلْمِ. This includes الظلم, injustice, وَالْبَغْيِ عَلَى النَّاسِ, to treat people with injustice. And as mentioned before, someone did wrong. To be treated with injustice, this is injustice. So even the laws of war and the ahkam of war in the deen of Islam is based on justice. And the Prophet ﷺ would instruct the Sahaba radiallahu anhum and instruct the Ummah, if they are in the context of war, two armies fighting with one another, there are laws to be observed and never to commit injustice whatsoever, not to kill a child or a woman or a person worshipping in his sawma'a, all kinds of details that even in the context of when they're fighting with one another in war. So إنما السبيل على الذين يظلمون الناس ويبغون في الأرض بغير الحق. That's why the world is in a big loss when the Muslims are oppressed, because they don't know the beauty of how to be justice or to establish justice in the perfect way. Not because of the individual Muslims. As individual Muslims, we fall into injustices. But the deen of Islam has the perfect justice, the perfect system of justice, because it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Most High. This has not been tampered with. Actions of people is something else. But if people understand the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, the way of As-Salaf As-Salih, the way it was understood and implemented at the time of the Prophet ﷺ and the Khulafa al-Rashideen, there's no like of it on the face of earth. And won't be any like of it on the face of earth till people return back to these sources. So إنما السبيل على الذين يظلمون الناس ويبغون في الأرض بغير الحق. He says وهذا شامل للظلم والبغي على الناس, includes the dhulm and the transgression on people في دمائهم, when it comes to their blood, killing or wounding them, وأموالهم, their wealth, وأعراضهم, their honor and dignity, with words. أولئك لهم عذاب أليم. These people, they have a painful punishment. أي موجع للقلوب, painful. That means it hurts the hearts. والأبدان, the physical body. بحسب ظلمهم وبغيهم, according to their ظلم and baghi. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most just. So the punishment in the hereafter is according to the level of wrongdoing. And that's why there are levels and levels of punishment. They're not all in the same level of punishment according to the evil actions that they did. Then the ayah says, وَلَمَنْ صَبَرَ وَغَفَرَ إِنَّ ذَلِكَ لَمِنْ عَزْمِ الْأُمُورِ. Again going back to saying, and whoever is patient and forgives, indeed that is of the matters requires determination. So you see, going back again to the patience and forgiveness, and with stressing the meaning that they have the right to ask for justice, but the call after a call for people to be patient, to forgive, because this is what is more spacious, and this is what is more rewarding, as long as it brings what is good. So he says here, وَلَمَنْ صَبَرَ, for the one that صبر, is patient, على ما يناله من أذى الخلق. The patients are of three types. To be patient in doing the acts of obedience to Allah, that requires patience for you to come for the salah, to make ibadah like this. The command from Allah to be away from sins, so it requires patience. And as-sabr ala aqdarillah, to have patience when it comes to the qadr of Allah. Part of that is as-sabr ala al-adha min al-khalq. To be patient when it comes to the harm that comes to you from people, from the creation of Allah. That requires patience, and requires for the person to know how to be patient and what strengthens this patient. And we read before one of the beautiful Rasail, small booklet by Sheikh Hussain Taymiyyah rahimahullah, that he mentioned 20 or so means or benefits when it comes to be patient from the harms of the people. Why should a person be patient when it comes to individuals, to being patient with people, with human beings? So وَلَمَنْ صَبَرَ وَغَفَرَ, whoever is patient, وَغَفَر, and he forgives, لهم بأن سمح لهم عما يصدر منهم, forgives, pardon, overlooks. إن ذلك لمن عزم الأمور. Indeed, this is for sure from عزم الأمور. عزم الأمور, the most matters that requires determination, something that only the elite of the people, the best of the human beings, those who have the ability to control themselves to that extent, they are the best of the human beings, because it requires very strong determination. And human beings are, their level of goodness and honor is based on how much determined they are. And of course, the highest level of determination is to seek the pleasure of Allah, even in worldly matters. People, they would look up to the one that has strong determination, even though it might be limited to this worldly life. But these are the matters that require strong determination. He says, أي لا من الأمور التي حث الله عليها. What is عزم الأمور in the Quran and the Sunnah? أولو العزم من الرسل. These are the matters that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala حث عليها, encourage the people to be upon it. Verse after another, وأكدها, and stress the meaning of it, that this is one of the best things for a person to do. وأخبر أنه لا يلقاها, and he informed that no one will attain this يلقاها, and to have it إلا أهل الصبر, except the people of patience, والحظوظ العظيمة, and the great fortune. And every time you find something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's repeated in the Quran, and the command of it is repeated and being stressed, that means we know for sure then we will have mudafa'a inside. That why there's so much encouragement? Because human beings, they have resistance to this. And the more resistance we have in our innate, the more the commands becomes stronger. Because you would find the resistance and it's evil, and you would see that it's bad. But that's why the commands and the encouragements becomes more. For example, you won't find too many ayat in the Quran or a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ for the parents to be kind to their children. It's very obvious, because they have it in themselves. They have it in their hearts. They care for their children more than anyone else, for the most part. But you would find so many commands from Allah for the child to have righteousness and to be good to the parents. Why? Because, and this is important for the parents to understand, your children, and you are a child, towards you are not the same as you are towards them. They don't care if they, for example, they grow up and they leave you and they move out. And we see that, right? They don't have the same level in their hearts as the parents have towards them. But it gets stronger and built by al-Iman, by the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because it's sufficient for them to know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants them to be righteous to their parents. So this is even more stronger than the love that they have in their innate towards their parents, because this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ordering them, and they have the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so their obedience and their kindness to their parents will be far more better than those who just do it because this is how nature is. So to watch these commands from Allah, the most important actions. So this is الأمور التي عزم عليها. That means the matters that you have been called to have so much strong determination to do it. So to know that you won't be able to do it unless you focus, you seek help from Allah, you purify your heart, and so on. Only the people that has great fortune and sabr, that they will be upon it. He says, وَمِنَ الْأُمُورِ الَّتِي لَا يُوَفَّقُ لَهَا إِلَّا أُولُو الْعَزَائِمِ وَالْهِمَمِ. This is from the matters that no tawfiq, no one will be guided to it except the people of al-azaim, ulul azaim, ulul azm. Like ulul azm in the rusul, they are the best of the messengers. So to have, to be upon or to be among the people that have strong determination, it's a way of life. Not to have strong determination in one action that you like, that's not strong determination. You like to do something and you have, mashallah, you show the best, you conduct yourself in the best way because you like this, is not strong determination. What is then our affairs when it's something that we don't like or something that we are pulled to do and it's bad? This is now, it shows the people of Al-Azm when they would have strong determination all of their life. They're always upon strong determination. التي لا يوفق لها إلا أولو العزائم والهمم, those who have high zeal in things. وذو الألباب والبصائر. Dhu is the owner of. They are the people of al-albab, the people of reason, intellect, or of al-lub. Al-lub is the core of the person, which is the reason. Wal-basair, the proper vision. And all of these things helps the person to have strong determination. Why would someone wants to have a strong determination when he sees there's no benefit of it? So they see through things. They see what's beyond these matters and they seek rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. فإن ترك الانتصار للنفس بالقول أو الفعل من أشق شيء عليها. That requires really lectures, but briefly inshallah ta'ala because of the time, because indeed to stay away from giving victory to your own self, from avenging, from satisfying yourself by revenge, by getting even with those who wronged you, with بالقول أو الفعل, with speech or actions, من أشق شيء عليها. To be away from this is one of the very difficult things for oneself. And we are human beings, very weak, right? And it's sometimes, or many times, we confuse deen with our personal egos and things like this. Someone calls to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, someone enjoins good and forbid evil, say to a brother, fear Allah, this is wrong, this is right, like this. So the person returns back, you're ignorant, you do not know anything. Then you see the amount of anger inside, not for the deen of Allah anymore, it's because of you have been hurt. So it's a normal thing, but the sincerity of the deen is, if a person is in state of doing good, then he has to control himself. He started the matter to be deen, so he should continue to make it also deen. That why now he's so angry? It's because of his own nafs. So فإن ترك الانتصار للنفس, to have this tajarrud, to be so focused, and it requires strong determination to separate what's for oneself versus what's sincerely for the sake of Allah. So to stay away from oneself and revenging for oneself and being victorious. And it's shaitan has his ways. Oh, if this is how the deen is, as if the person is the deen. No, stay away from having anything for oneself. This is one of the difficult things. وَالصَّبْرُ عَلَى الْأَذَى, and to have patience when it comes to harm. وَالصَّفْحِ عَنْهُ, and pardoning. وَمَغْفِرَةِ, and forgiveness. وَمُقَابَلَتِهِ بِالْإِحْسَانِ, not just to forgive and to pardon and then you stay away from that individual or this matter, but rather to oppose this with al-ihsan, to even show ihsan and goodness. أشق وأشق, توكيد. أشق and أشق, repeating the word over again. It's more difficult. Not just to forgive and pardon, but don't talk to me for the rest of your life. No, forgiving and pardon, and then he shows all kinds of goodness to that individual. This is more difficult. And we even see that from when we deal with the closest people to ourselves. Right? When a person is angry, can that person have a switch? We don't have a switch. Right? And the Deen, subhanAllah, calls us to be able to have that switch. If a person is in the highest level of anger, and once he knows that what is best is to forgive and pardon, and even do something good. Very difficult, but it requires for the person to train himself. Seeking rewards from Allah, and it's sufficient for the person that Allah is pleased with something like this. ولكنه يسير على من يسره الله عليه. Very difficult, but it's easy for those who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it easy for them. وجاهد نفسه, and he jihad against oneself. That requires jihad. To struggle with oneself, على الاتصاف به, to have this characteristics, not an action, to have these characteristics. واستعان الله على ذلك, and he sought help, and he always seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have this. ثم إذا ذاق العبد حلاوته, then if he tastes the sweetness of it, ووجد آثاره, and he sees the effect of it and the traces of it, تلقاه برحب الصدر, he would then receive it with spaciousness in his heart, وسعة الخلق, and the spaciousness of manners. Manners is to be spacious, not to be tight. والتلذذ فيه, and to enjoy it even. It takes the person to a level of enjoyment. And again, this is one of the things that a person would live his entire life in that same tightness, never worked on himself to take himself to a higher level. So when he was young, he was like this. He would never forgive anybody, and everything is his own self, things like this. And become repented to Allah, become righteous, become religion, but some of these things never fixed. And a person would accept it in himself, this is how I am. This is how the person is. And he's, mashallah, he conducts himself in the best way and form possible. But once these things are instigated, then it shows what's hidden in the heart. And therefore, it's a constant battle with oneself, that a person has to elevate himself, and he would change. We have the ability to change by the will of Allah. And this is not genes, and a person is satisfied by this. If it's a command from Allah, it's a quality that Allah wants us to be upon, then a person has to work to be upon it. There are, again, as mentioned, so many different things to be said about that, and so many incidents and hadith. Like one hadith that is very famous in the subject, and it shows the highest level of people, those who have strong determination, and it's by the mercy of Allah, it's high level. That means there is a level where it's obligatory upon everyone. And then not to be blamed if a person is in this level, but then to elevate oneself and not to be satisfied by that, and to show that in the best individual in this ummah after the Prophet ﷺ, which is Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, the best of this ummah after the Prophet ﷺ. And as you see that he was the best because of something in his heart, one of which is this. And the Prophet ﷺ would not allow Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu to go lower of his level by the actions of Abu Bakr. The hadith of Abi Hurairah radiallahu anhu, أن رجلا شتم أبا بكر والنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم جالس. Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم sitting, and a man reviled Abu Bakr in the presence of the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام. فجعل النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يعجب ويتبسم. The Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام kept on looking amazed and smiling. The man is saying bad words to Abu Bakr, and the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام is smiling. فلما أكثر رد عليه بعد قوله. When the man kept on going, then Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu responded to some of what he said. فغضب النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. The Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام became angry. He changed. وقام, and he stood up and left. فلحقه أبو بكر. Abu Bakr رضي عنه went fast after the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام. فقال يا رسول الله إنه كان يشتمني وأنت جالس. He was يشتمني. الشتم is السب, to say bad words, to revile someone, سباب, to say bad words to him, and you were sitting. فلما رددت عليه بعض قوله, when I just responded to some of the things that he said, غضبت وقمت. You became angry and you left. Then the Prophet ﷺ, يوحى إليه, revelation is happening, these things, and it continues to be revelations, by the way. When people are doing things together, There is unseen matters that we don't see. So the Prophet ﷺ informed us of what he saw. He said, إِنَّهُ كَانَ مَعَكَ مَلَكٌ يَرُدُّ عَنْكَ. There was an angel with you, responding, defending you, pushing the harm from you. فَلَمَّا رَدَدْتَ عَلَيْهِ بَعْضَ قَوْلِهِ حَضَرَ الشَّيْطَانِ. Once you start talking back of some of the things that he said, shaitan came. The angels were present, shaitan came, and when the shaitan comes, the angels, they leave. فَلَمْ أَكُنْ لِأَقْعُدَ مَعَ الشَّيْطَانِ. It does not befit for me to sit with the shaitan. ثم قال يا أبا بكر. Then he said, "O Abu Bakr, ثلاث كلهن حق." Three things, they're all حق. They're all truthful. Inshallah, this is to be discussed later, inshallah. But briefly, ما من عبد ظلم بمظلمة فيغضي عنها لله. There is no abd that is being wronged against, oppressed in a matter, and he overlook it for the sake of Allah. إلا أعز الله بها نصره. Unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give him victory and might and honor. وما فتح رجل باب عطية يريد بها صلة إلا زاده الله بها كثرة. And there's no man that would open the gate of عطية that he would give, intended with that for the relationships to be stronger and so on, unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give him more and more. He's giving so that he strengthens the relationship between his relatives and so on. Allah will give him more. وما فتح رجل باب مسألة يريد بها كثرة. And there's no man that opens a door of mas'ala, asking from the wealth of people and things like this. He wants to have more and more wealth as a result of that. إلا زاده الله بها قلة. Unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will increase him less. That means he will give him less and less. The more he asks, the more he's given less. Opposite to what he wants. So it's all haqq because it requires for the person to understand this from the wahy, from the revelation from Allah. Otherwise, a person, if he leaves it to himself, he would do these types of things. But the point here is how that the Prophet ﷺ did that because of the issue of a sabr and having patience and forgiving. Especially all of these things, just nothing, has no effect to it. It's not someone coming to punch and you're just hit me, go ahead and hit me more. There's no such a thing. But to defend oneself, but to overlook other things that is of no benefit for the better cause and the good that comes as a result of that. We'll continue, inshallah ta'ala, next time. I know that there might be some questions. What if someone did this and someone did, it's okay to keep it like that first. And then the exceptions with these principles, there's no harm, of course, in to get to know how to deal with it. Allah musta'an. We'll stop here, inshallah. Quickly, there's a question. If anybody wants to leave, please feel at ease, inshallah. Can we say that forgiving someone who wronged us for the sake of Allah, expecting rewards with Allah on the Day of Judgment, like giving charity, seeking rewards with Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the more we are wronged, then we forgive, the more rewards. That's فَأَجْرُوا عَلَى Allah. That's what the ayah says. It's not just any rewards. It's no limits to it. Far more than any rewards whatsoever is when someone forgives and pardons. This is something that is beyond one's imagination. And why? Because he's seeking rewards in the hereafter. Because it's not an easy matter. And again, with the condition that it's for goodness, for a matter that is good. And it's always advisable not to leave it to oneself, even if you are a person of knowledge and so on. Don't leave it to yourself to make the judgment whether it's good or bad to forgive. Because we have our own nafs in the place. So to ask someone that is detached from these emotions, maybe this can be a better way, because we always justify it to ourselves. Oh, if I forgive that person, he's just going to be a tyrant. He's not going to stop. And this is always the argument, and most of it is from shaitan. Shaitan did revenge, so is it good to push away the desire of revenge for oneself? As mentioned before, that we always have to learn what is al-asl and what is the exception, or al-asl wal-far'. You have to know the foundation and then the branches, what branches out, or the exceptions versus what is the norm. So the norm that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us is that no revenge, no even seeking rights and justice and so on. The norm is, how can I forgive? The first thing that comes into one's mind, one's heart, how forgiveness would work in this situation. First, if there's a way, and mashallah, there's goodness as a result of that, so this is great. If there's no means for forgiveness, or it's not just too difficult, but there's no benefit from it, then the only choice left is justice, or less than that, not beyond that. But most of the people, they do what? Justice first. And then if they forgive, oh, this is such a great, person. Or, of course, this is a matter of determination, of course. But it's not the justice first, and then you need to be convinced to forgive. No, we're supposed to do the forgiveness first, or try the forgiveness first. And if it doesn't work, then the minimum is the rights. Then next is, if someone who wronged you comes to you asking for forgiveness, however, you think that if you tell him that you forgive him, he would not be sincere and might continue to do dhulm, is it allowed to tell him that you don't forgive him, but in reality you forgive him, so he realizes the severity of his actions? No, forgive, inshallah. Forgiveness that would brings goodness, right? And the Muslim should not humiliate himself. But to assume things, many times we assume things when it does not have reality to it. So, and the issue of sincerity, this is in the heart. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. And human beings, in their nature also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created them that you would, as they say, تأثيره بالإحسان إليه. You make them your servant when you're kind to them. This is the norm of the human beings. The exception is something else. So if someone did wrong to you, and especially that he comes and he asks for forgiveness, it's a must upon the person to accept, to forgive. Someone comes and says, forgive me. It's an evil thing for a person to say, I would never forgive you. Who are you to say that? Who are we to say that? And we know the incident also of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu and so on. He's not sincere, he's this or that. What's the signs of that? So it's every case, of course, is separate, but the norm is that a person should forgive, and sincerity only known by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then physical harm or actions should be evaluated accordingly, inshallah. The IRS sent me a check that is about 1,000 more than I expected. I explained that this is additional as interest because my amended return took longer to process. Could you please take it, inshallah? They give it to you, so why not? You did not give them a loan and they give you back interest. You paid 10,000 taxes, for example, so they gave you, instead of giving you 1,000, they give you 2,000. You did not lie, you did not do any tricks. It's not riba, it's not usury, because you paid. So whether they would consider that as interest to whatever the amount that was kept, but these matters are to be looked at of how much you gave. So if they give you less or they give you more of part of what you gave, then this is okay. You did not give them a loan, right? And then they're giving you more than the loan that you gave them. So, and this is, if I understand that correctly, Allahu A'lam. I want to give fatwas in these matters. I noticed during Umrah, some men cutting few strands of hair. Is there any evidence for this? And is it valid? And for women, is it just 1 or 2 centimeters of few hair, or all hair? For women, this is what they should do. They should get their hair together after Umrah or Hajj, and the tip, when she gets her hair all together, and then the last part of the hair, the tip as big as the fingertip, very small, just the tip of her hair, to cut that. That's sufficient for women. But for men, either they shave their heads, which is better, and if they don't shave, which is permissible, they have to cut the entire head, meaning to shorten the hair. Like when you go to the barber shop, he does not just take a tip at the end, right? Or one thing like this. So for men, it's not sufficient. He did not do this taqseer if you just get a scissor and do this. It has to be the entire head, from the entire head to the best of his ability. Like he's going to the barber. You go to the barber shop, says, shorten my hair. Number 4, number 3, whatever. So he shortened the hair. This is what the entire hair. Now, the 3 types of patience: to be patient, to do the acts of obedience to Allah, sabr ala ta'a, sabr an al-ma'siyah, to have patience away from sins, and to have patience when it comes to the aqdar, the qadar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is the one who does sihr an oppressor, and the one sihr is done and oppressed? Definitely, for sure. Sahir is an oppressor, of course, and he's zalim, he's a wrongdoer, evil person. And the one that receives that, he's being oppressed, of course. Now, If a grown-up children misbehaves, is it okay to say, don't talk to me and don't talk for a few days to teach them a lesson? Yes, this is part of the ta'deeb. This is part of, if you see that this works for their goodness, for they will change as a result of that. This is all means of reprimanding a child for the goodness of the child, not for revenging for oneself. There's no such a thing as a parent revenging from their child, but rather to teach them a lesson. And there's always the ta'deeb with good and with some form of punishment. And this is something that is valid to happen, but to put it in the right perspective so that it's not abused and he gets used to it or he likes it that way because that means you won't give him any responsibilities. So the matter has to be assessed, of course. طيب جزاكم الله خيرا وبارك الله فيكم وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. سبحانك اللهم ربنا وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.